Weekend UpNate.
The Weekend UpNate.
Your weekly recap of news, current events, and trending stories. Let's do this. The Weekend UpNate with your host, Nate Armbruster.
Hello and welcome to episode 41 of Weekend UpNate. Thanks for downloading and tuning in. I hope you had a nice weekend. I sure did. Here's a few things to catch you up on. First of all, if you are listening to this and you were at my album recording on Sunday, September 25th, by the way, this will be the last time I ever mention it until I officially release it. I know I've been annoying about it, but if you have been listening to this and you showed up, I appreciate you immensely. We had a great turnout, over 100 people, which in Zany's Comedy Club is nearly sold out. Okay, I'll be honest. I'm not going to be one of these comics that, I'm not going to round up. I was maybe 10 tickets shy of selling out, which is okay. That's all right in my book. Now, could I be telling everybody I officially sold it out and would nobody know the difference anyway? Yeah, sure, I could. But I'm not like that, okay? I had some 111 people there, and they all seemed to have a good time. And I've listened back to the recording, and I think I got something I like, finally, because I've tried numerous times to record this and put it out, and I've been doing some of these jokes for just way too long, and it's the perfect time. Everything turned out great. I had a good enough set, It's like one of those things where you could always listen to it and find something wrong, like, oh, I forgot to do this here, or I said this differently than I'd like to say it, or normally this joke gets a better response, stuff like that. But if you're always doing that, you're never going to get anything done, right? I mean, sure, I could always work on the jokes and keep doing it, but the fact is some of these jokes I've just done for way too long, and I was like, okay, I got to record this thing just so I can kind of put that feather in my cap and try to write some new jokes. I think it gives me like a nice little ending to that chapter of material, I guess, if you will. So anyway, it looks good, it sounds good, and hopefully I'll have it out at some point by the end of the year. That's my goal, at least. So look out for that, and I promise to shut up about it until then. And so now, here I am. I'm pre-recording this episode as well, okay? I'm getting ahead of the game because I can't take a week off. That's not how podcasting works. The minute you take 1 week off, you lose, half your subscribers. I'm trying to stay loyal to my audience. My loyal audience. So before I go on about these, trending stories or news topics, I have to tell you about something that happened to me. Now, this is my own fault, right? Like, this is my own temper, and I've noticed I never had a temper, not one in public at all, at least, and I'm usually good about just keeping my thoughts inside and not saying them when it's not appropriate, and it's probably not a big deal. I mean, Earth is dying, and I'm going to make a big stink about someone cutting in line at a baseball game. And usually, I can talk myself out of saying anything to somebody who's just being kind of a dick, right? But I've changed. And as I started to call someone out for their rude behavior in public, in my head, I'm like, what am I saying? Why am I doing this? I'm officially that guy. But at the same time, the George Costanza in me is like, no, you got to say it. This is an injustice, not just to me, but everyone in line behind us. Now, let me explain my logic. My goal, by the way, isn't to start a fight. I'm not here to, my goal was to just call them out so they know. Like, I let them, I'm like, you can cut, but everybody here is going to know that you just cut in front of them. And you're going to be embarrassed. You're going to think about this because I'm going to get inside your head. This is all I wanted out of it. I didn't want her to let me go. I didn't want her to get back in her spot in line. I didn't want anything like that. All I wanted to do was embarrass her enough that I bet you she's still thinking about it. Now, in reality, she's probably not, and I'm the loser talking about it on a podcast, but for some reason, this just got to me. Now, we're standing in line at the baseball game. We're at our first Cubs game of the season, right? By the way, it's the end of the season, and we just decide to go now. It's only a few blocks away. I'm like, Why not? We'll go catch a game. It'll be nice. And the thing about it is everything now is digital. They have what's called the MLB Ballpark app. Everything is digital. Tickets, concessions. If you want to buy something, it's got to be on the app. I think they still take cash, but everything is just streamlined now, right? It's all digital, and it's like anything else. You mobile order, and you should be able to walk up to the window and grab your stuff, right? It's supposed to be easier, but the fact is it made it way harder. And I don't know if it's due to staffing or if it's just maybe we just went to the wrong thing. Like maybe there was just maybe the people didn't know what was going on. I don't know. But for whatever reason, the line was just empty. And we walked up, and I'm like, all right, this is our spot. We're first in line. Then all of a sudden people start showing up and they get in line behind us. And now I'm like, did we just create a line out of nothing that wasn't supposed to be here? You know, so now we're all just wondering, like, what the hell are we supposed to do? And there were two people in front of us. And we're all trying to figure out what's up with the app. Nobody's calling us over. I mean, you're standing at the mobile order pickup line. So we know we're right? Like, we're not crazy. But nobody's coming over. So finally, somebody goes up to the counter and stands there, and they're like, oh, mobile order, okay. And then we're like, okay, so now we're all just figuring it out. The line's moving, and then there's these two women, maybe 4 or 5 people behind us, right? And they just jump to the front, and because there's 3 registers, but there's clearly one person working the register. So only one person can wait on you at a time. And they just mosey over, and they're like right in front of us to where the guy before us is getting, you know, and everybody's getting impatient. That's the thing, because we've been standing there for 10 minutes, longer than that maybe, and you start to wonder, like, what the hell are we even doing? And these girls start like creeping in, and they're doing the thing where it's like, okay, we both know we're cutting, we're just gonna inch closer and closer while we're waiting to be called over. And I'm like, these girls are just cutting, they're just gonna cut. So in my head, I had enough because we've been waiting for 15 minutes or so. And I go, oh, are you guys behind us? And she goes, no, we've been waiting here for like 10 minutes. And I was like, no, you haven't. We just watched you. Like, you were behind us. Like, you weren't here before us. You know what I mean? And she goes, she was so like mad at me for saying anything, which tells me super entitled, right? And now some would say I am for calling her out, but this was my thing. I just had to call her out, so she was embarrassed. She's flustered. She's like, fine, if you want to go ahead of me, just go. And I'm like, yeah, but then you still cut in front of the person behind us. Like, that's, you know, that's just how it works. Like, you know, you're just supposed to wait in line. She goes, we've been waiting here for 10 minutes. And I go, yeah, we've been here for 15, which is why we're in front of you in line. And so I let that just sit there, right? I just let it sit there, and I let her go because I knew, you know, because she was going to get her way. Okay, it was like one of the, you could tell by the way she was standing there, like she was, you know, just a little entitled. And that's fine. We all have those days. We all have that in us. It's just about how you control it. But the thing is, I am going to get inside of her head about this because I was so irritated. And the thing is, like, I know me, and I'm very self-aware. If I tried that, which I never really would, that's not my thing, okay? If anything, I'm the complete opposite. I would let 12 people go ahead of me before I go, hey, did you guys see me here? But this was just a different day. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the last 3 years of pandemic angst building up inside of me, or the fact that nobody seemed to notice the mobile order line, and we were all just, I mean, it was just busy. Everybody's annoyed. I don't know what it was, but I'm going to get inside of her head, and I hope she's still thinking about it. And, you know, reality is she's probably not. I'm probably the only loser still thinking about it. But I like to think that she maybe was a little embarrassed. Like, you have to be able to call yourself out, like, oh, shoot, I'm sorry, I didn't see the line. At least do that. Isn't that what any sane person would do? It's like, oh, like, even if you were intentionally, like, if you knew what you were doing, wouldn't you pretend to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the line started here, or something stupid like that? So it's our turn in line, right? We go up after the people who cut, and we're standing there, and we're scanning the QR code, right? And I'm like, nothing. It's not working. And the woman working at the counter is like, I don't know, just tell me what you ordered, and I'll just give it to you. So she was having technical difficulties, and she was fed up because it was busy. And I was patient. I was nice. I didn't, I'm not that guy. I'm not going to complain about that, right? So she just gives us the stuff. And then I look at the receipt and I realize we had been waiting at the wrong stand that we placed the order at, which is why the scan didn't work. So now I hate myself. I'm the guy who's yelling at this lady for cutting, and I'm not even supposed to be in this line, but I already spent 20 minutes waiting, and then I'm like, you know what? She gave us the stuff, so I'm not going to say a word, right? I'm just going to call it. And then I realize on our way to the seats, I'm like, hey, if this receipt is good, if this order is good at the other stand on the other side of our section, maybe we can go get like another round, So about 2 or 3 innings later, I'm like, I'm going to go see if this QR code works at this other stand. And we walk down there, scan the barcode, nothing's showing up. It's not working. The guy just goes, you know what? Tell me what you ordered. I'll bring it right over to you. And I'm like, what? All right. So to recap, we got 2 free beers, 2 free Chicago dogs from a ballpark, which is about a $50 value. And some would say that that's not right to allow that. I guess the someone with a perfect conscience would say, hey, no, I didn't pay yet. I have to pay for it or whatever. And I think if it's a $1 billion entity like a baseball team already upcharging a Bud Light by $17, I think it's totally fair that you don't mention it. Don't mention it when somebody gives you your shit for free. Don't mention it. We didn't steal it because I did pay for it. I paid for 1 round, technically. And I like to think this is the universe paying me back for calling that lady out for cutting. You know what I mean? I put it out there. I said, hey, this is an injustice. You're being rude, not just to us, but to the people behind us in line. And in return, I got 2 free drinks and 2 free hot dogs. They had a baseball game where normally that shit would have cost like $50. Now, to clarify, I would never do that to like a mom and pop. I would never do that, right? And also, a mom and pop shop would never charge that much, even in a recession. So just because I let it slide, and that guy didn't care either, by the way. He works for what, $9.50 an hour? He doesn't give a shit. He just wants to go home. Also, there's like 50 hot dogs left on the grill that you can clearly see, and it's like the 8th inning. You're gonna throw that shit away anyway. You throw that shit out. Just throw me a free one. It's not a big deal. All right, so thank you for hearing me out on that. It's just been building up inside of me. I totally let that woman ruin my night, and like I said, she probably is so oblivious to people around her that she hasn't even thought about it. All right, so on to the news. As I said, I'm pre-recording this, so if something crazy happens, like the Queen awakens by the time Sunday rolls around and I don't talk about it, that's why. First of all, Hurricane Ian, if you're a Florida listener, I know I got a couple of you, good luck, because that shit looks gnarly. I was watching the coverage. Now, we do this all the time. I am not from Florida. I've visited Florida many times, but I'm not from there. I've never been there in a hurricane. And locals, I love and respect their refusal to leave. And I get that. I would like to think I have that in me, but I don't. First of all, I don't have it in me to just live in Florida. Sure, the weather's great most of the year, but everything you have to put up with when it comes to like alligators, no. Why? I don't want to walk down the street and potentially, okay, maybe the street's a little ridiculous, but I don't want the threat of an alligator attack in my life. That's just not me. I just can't. And second, the hurricanes, man, even if you are prepared and you have the resources to do it right, like some people are like, I live in an 8-story building, I'll be fine. Even if it floods that high, I'll be fine. And that's their thing. They just stock up on food and water, wait it out. That's probably the only circumstance I could do it in, is like if I'm high up enough in a building that I'm like, okay, there's no way the flood will get this high. That's the only way I could do it. But when I see people having to board up their windows every year this happens, and how many hurricanes happen a year? And I guess it's always a toss-up of where it's going to go if one happens, right? So like Tampa, all these people are boarding up their windows. And if that's just something you have to do, that seems so annoying. I've cleaned out gutters, and it's just like, this is like a mundane, just once a year task. And that's annoying. I couldn't imagine having to board up every window, because you got to do that whether you stay or not, right? I mean, you don't want your shit destroyed, but this has to be one of those things where I'm from here, my life is here, why would I leave Florida? And like, where are you going to go? If you're not used to winter, you're not coming up here, to the Midwest. But I'm the same way. I like it here, because everything I hate is like, okay, winters get bad sometimes, but that's usually, when it's going to happen, right? Like these few months out of the year, it's going to be unbearable. But you have the resources. You got coats, you got heat. That's all you need. You can fight that. You can control your climate, at least inside. That's why I like the Midwest, is because the only thing I really have to worry about is winter and then maybe a tornado. And those seem to be popping up more and more now. But, I mean, that's really it, though. There's no earthquakes, at least yet. I mean, maybe. We had there was one in, like, Missouri, I think. I don't know. But earthquakes don't really happen. So, like, I don't have too much to worry about when it comes to natural disasters. Not yet. I think this is going to be the place everybody goes, by the way, when the coastlines start disappearing, or moving inward, I should say. I don't know. It just doesn't seem, the risk-reward factor doesn't seem to really do it for me when it comes to, like, living in Florida. Also, what if, like, the locals are right? Everybody online, or you see some locals who are like, it's fine. They're always wrong about it. And, that happens a lot, You know how we are about weather and fear in the media. Like, hey, you better get out of town. This is going to be the deadliest hurricane in decades. And then the hurricane hits and nothing. Absolutely no issues. Everybody's fine. Everybody's pissed that they left and packed up their entire family. But are you willing to risk it? That's the thing. Also, I hate the way we cover hurricanes. We make everybody so terrified. Like, I'm not even from there. And I'm like, oh shit, should I be worried? Like, it's crazy how it kind of takes over the news. I was watching the Today Show today, right? The national news in the morning. And they have a correspondent, right? They send some guy out there, and he is standing in the worst weather. Like, the hurricane at this moment, okay, this is Wednesday when I'm recording this, right? So it's a little early. Now, everything's going to be pretty much, the storm will have passed through by the time you're hearing this. But it's literally hitting Florida as I'm speaking. Like right now, it's just hitting the landfall. Hitting landfall, is that the term? And this morning, some guy's, covering the hurricane, and he's just standing there in the rain with like a rain jacket and rain boots, and like he looks miserable, and he's killing it, right? He is just like, he's a true broadcaster. He's speaking clearly. He's not like you can't even tell if he's nervous. And I'm like, this guy has to stand here, and he's like, yeah, so by this time tomorrow, right where I'm standing could be up to 9 feet of water. And he's just got to stand there and say that. Like, they're telling everybody to get out, and then one guy in the media has got to stand there and be like, yeah, it's fine. It's bad, but it's fine. I mean, I'm here. I just think it's dumb we still send real people down there. Like, if it's that dangerous, how come you're sending the reporters in, Those guys have, like, a crazy job. And also, how do they get in there? Because all flights are canceled, right? So they have to be there already, right? There's nothing like watching a reporter talk about how horrible the storm is and how every flight has just been canceled. And you have to report on that, as you won't get a flight out. So if you're in Florida right now, I mean, I hope you're doing all right dealing with, by now the storm is past, I hope. And I hope you're doing well. Take care of yourself. And thank you so much for listening. If you dig the show, please tell a friend about it. That's the best way to find more listeners, is if you share it with your friends. So send them a link. Go to my website, weekendupnate.com, and we'll see you next week for a brand new episode of Weekend UpNate.
You've been listening to the Weekend UpNate with Nate Armbruster, and you liked it, didn't you? If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review, and be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Weekend UpNate.
Bye-bye.